Hey, this is the Hardest Question video blog. I'm the Reverend Russell, and it's the Reverend Dr. Mark Stenberg, Hardest Questions Senior Contributing Editor. And we are in Ordinary 18C, reading Luke 12:13 through 21. Mark?
Yes, Russell. We got another doozy of a parable here. As always with these texts, you will decide whether to just preach the parable proper. Some scholars are pretty rigid on that point, that we always just look at the parable. But we usually look at the text around it.
I think so too.
And how the dialectic between the parable and what's happening in the story, so in the narrative of the gospel. So
what are
the hard questions?
I think the hard questions right away of this is like, I know it seems like every week we want to say that Jesus is not being very nice, but
it's just been that way lately.
It's just been that way lately. The summers aren't good for him. The humidity gets to him, and we have a lot of. I mean, I think the lectionary saved these kind of texts for summer. I think they do. But so here's the hardest question. Like, this guy comes up to Jesus and says, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me."
Which seems like a pretty legitimate request.
Because obviously, if he needs it to be divided, that the older son is the one who gets the inheritance, and by right, it's all his. The younger son doesn't, by right get any of that.
What's fair about that?
So he's asking Jesus to intervene in fairness. He's the second born, which it seems like the whole history of Israel is all about the second son. Is pretty big. So you'd think Jesus would be his guy, but Jesus turns sort of on him.
Friend, who set me to be a judge or arbitrator over you?
And then he says, and let me tell you a little parable, right? Be careful, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Yeah, and then he tells him the parable of this rich landowner who, and I think you said this, Mark, this is really sort of the heart of the parable, or the heart of this pericope here. He thought to himself, what should I do? I have no place to store my crops. He has so many, he thinks, what should I do? I have no place to store my crops. And we could just easily come to a simple conclusion, this being the gospel of Jesus Christ. Perhaps he could give them to other people who need them.
Yes.
Yes.
He has some storage already.
Yeah. And then they're full.
Yeah.
It's like that age-old question. What am I going to do with all this money? I got all this extra money. What should I do with it?
Yeah.
But he concludes, like I think people would, with that question of what they're going to do with that extra money. He says he's going to tear down his barns and build bigger ones.
I know. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones.
Yeah.
And there I will store all my grain and my goods.
So I mean, this is bending towards a reading, an ethical reading of sharing your resources, right? Giving to those. If you have abundance, giving to those. Don't create more abundance for yourself, because your real treasure is in heaven.
Yeah.
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 Jesus does get a little heavy-handed about it at the end, I think.
Well, the parable itself.
God.
Isn't so happy either. God said to him, "You fool! This very night your life is being demanded of you.
You fool!
And the things you have prepared, whose will they be?" Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know where you land, what good news you find in this, and how you preach it. Thanks.